Hi, I'm Captain Tom Bassel.
And I'm acting ensign Wesley Jason Levine.
Ensign. Okay. Well, anyhow, today we're taking a look. We're boldly going where no man has gone before into Star Trek Ascendancy. Now, this game was announced. They made a big. It's people kind of known it's been coming for a bit, but they announced it at Origins, and I was really excited because Gale Force 9 knows how to take a licensed property and make an excellent game with it.
Yes.
I felt pretty confident, especially when I heard that they've been designing this for a few years, that no matter what happened, I wouldn't play it and go, this is trash.
Exactly.
Right, because I played their games before, and their IPs, and whether I like them or don't like them, like, for example, I'm not a big fan of the Firefly game, but I'm not going to say it's trash. They took Firefly Universe and put it in a box to some degree.
Yeah, and see, I like Firefly a lot, so...
Okay, well, this is a big game, okay? This game is 3 players, says in the box, but you can play with 2 players. Although it only says 3 players in the back, but there are rules for 2 players.
Because of the trades and stuff. You guys will see.
Yeah, that's true. Well, anyway, it's a big, hefty game. Let's take a look. Now, there's a lot going on in this game, so I'm going to be giving you basically the general concepts. First, let's talk about how you win the game. To win the game, you need to control your own home planet. So if you're the Federation, you control Earth. And then 2 other players' home planets, so Kronos and Romulus. These are the 3 different races that come in here. We have the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans. And so you're going to start with these, and depending on how long you want the game to be, you start with how far apart they are. 18 inches apart, like a triangle, so these would be way off somewhere on the board. Each person is going to start with a control node of their piece on their home planet, and then you have a science node, this is a culture node, a science node, and a production node. You're going to start with one of each of those, and those are going to provide you with your 3 main resources that you'll be getting over the course of the game. Research, which is going to let you research new technologies and increase your weapon and shields. Culture, which is going to help you win the game and build more nodes and take over planets. And production, which basically is what you build things. Each of the players is going to have lots and lots of ships of their type. So these ships, you'll start with a ship and you're going to be moving these. You can build more ships, and players also have their own player board here, which gives you some special abilities and also tells you your level of your weapons and your shields. You're going to start with an ascendancy token. This is the other way to win. The one way to win is to control 3 planets, including your own home planets. And the other one, the way to win is to get 5 of these ascendancy tokens. And those are pretty simple to get with culture. If you spend 5 culture, you can buy another ascendancy token. These ascendancy tokens are a big deal because they also let you kind of take over everyone else by culture and defend yourself. Now, like I said, each person is going to have technology. You're going to have a starting advancement. So, for example, the Federation here, when attempting hegemony, add 1 to your die result. That's taking over a planet peacefully. And they're going to have more technology and advancements in a deck here that they're going to be using. At the beginning of each round, players are going to be either randomly giving out turn order cards. There's enough here for 10 players. Or if players have come into contact with each other, they will then bid resources to pick the order that they're going to go in. Once a player has decided that they're going to go, it's their turn, then each player is going to take their turn in turn order, and you're going to have a building phase. And in the building phase, you're going to decide what you want to build. And so there's a sheet here that basically is going to show you, for example, it costs 1 production to build more starships. You can build more nodes on planets that can handle them. And you can colonize a sector you're in, and you have to get rid of a ship there and culture tokens. So there's different things here. You can also put research tokens on any advancements that you're working on. These advancements will come into play once they have that much on them. Or you can pay So you can see here, I can pay 4 science to increase my weapons to a 4+. And then I would pay 6 to go up to a 3+, 8 to go to a 2+, and 10 to go to a 1+. While you can also raise your shields. And each player has their own unique board with these dials on. The dials are pretty much the same, they're just in different positions based on the board. Once a player is done with their building phase, they're going to go to their command phase. Each player has a certain number of command tokens. You're going to get more of these through different advancements, and every time you build another star base, you will get another command token. And you're just going to flip these over to show you you use them on your turn to do the different actions. Now, one of the actions that you're going to obviously want to do is you're going to want to fly your spaceship around. There are 2 ways to fly a spaceship. One is through impulse, and the other is through warp. Impulse just means you're basically going to moving slowly from one planet to the other. When you go impulse, you're going to have a space lane. You'll notice down here at the bottom of this planet there's 4. That means 4 space lanes can come from this place. So let's say I decide I'm going to go off. I'm going to roll a space lane die, and it's going to show how long the space lane is going to be. There are 2, 3, or 4. I'll connect it, and your impulse power is normally 2, so I'd move 2, and that would be one of my actions. I can move 2 more. Once I get to the end of the space lane, I will draw an unexplored thing here, and it will basically usually be some sort of planet. So what do we notice about this new planet that we've discovered? We notice that it can have 3 space lanes attached to it. It can have a control node put on it. One of the things in that control node has to be a production node, and the other one is open. It can be anything it wants. So this one can have 2 built on it. When you go to a new place like this, not only do you find this planet, but you'll draw the top card from an exploration deck. Now inside this exploration deck, we have basically some virgin planets. Just some basic planets, nothing. Those are fine. But sometimes you'll run into civilizations. Sometimes it's a pre-warp civilization, which just means there's going to be some resources there which you can plunder. Other times it will be a warp-capable civilization of a 1, 2, or 3, and you will either have to attack to take it over or peacefully try to take it over, and there's different stats for each of these. Sometimes when you get there, you'll find something good. Like for example here, you roll a die. If you roll higher than your current ascendancy level, you'll get a culture token. Or this one here, which basically just gives you straight up a culture token. These are good events. They're blue. Or draw the top card of your advancement deck. It is completed immediately. So you get a free advancement when you get to the Guardian of Forever. But not everything you find is good. Sometimes you will find negative things, like this booby trap here, which makes you pay 2 research, or you have a level 3 hazard, which I'll explain in a moment. Or a space amoeba. You roll the hit with all your ships in the system. If you score at least 1 hit, you get a research and you blow it up. Otherwise, you have to roll for a hazard on that also. And many of the red cards will cause you to roll a hazard, or maybe just here there's Dangerous 4. To build a colony in a system costs an extra 2 research tokens. So there's different cards that you will run across. Now sometimes when you find a new planet, there will be a hazard symbol at the top of that place. Every time you fly into this area, you have to deal with this hazard, and you will roll a die for each of your ships. Now, if you have shields in your ships, you will add that amount to each of your, you will add that number to this number here. So for each ship that rolls this number higher, you're going to lose that ship. So if I bring 3 ships here into Aurora Penthe, I roll 3 dice, and so I'll roll 3 6-sided dice. Let me show you. And I roll them, and I got 1 5 or higher, so one of my ships blows up. If my shields had been higher, let's say my shields were at a modifier of 1, I would turn this number into a 6, and then none of my ships would have died. So the higher your shields are, the more you can deal with these different modifiers. Now, you can also warp with a ship. I can spend an action to warp a ship. You remove it from the board, and you put a warp token on it to show that it's warping. As time goes by, you can, at the end of every round, you add another warp, but also for each token you use, you can add more warp to it, and then a ship can warp, ignoring the space lanes and going from 1, 2, 3. The only thing is, if there are ships from someone else there controlling that planet, you cannot warp to that planet or warp through it unless they give you permission. If they don't, the only way to get there is to go and basically go through impulse speed. Now, you're probably going to want to take more than 1 ship in. So what players are allowed to do is players, if they have a pile of ships at one spot, they can spend a command action to turn those ships into a fleet. and this here would stand for a pile of ships. And when I do that, I'm going to pick one of my fleet cards. Each player has 3 fleet cards that are numbered 1, 2, 3 to match the fleets. They have 2 sides. One side gives the fleet a special ability, but has spots for fewer ships. And then the other side doesn't have any special ability, but you can have a lot more ships in each of the fleets. Like, for example, here they can re-roll to hit on the planetary invasions. Or here, when you destroy rival ships, you get production. Or here, they can re-roll hits of 1 in space battles. And each of them are different. These are the Klingon fleets. And so you always have to have at least 3 ships in a fleet, but you can move this around and mess with different things as you see and fight each other. You can fight other ships. When you do that, you'll be looking at your weapons and shield spots here. You're going to roll a die for each of your ships, and you need to roll a 5 or higher to hit. However, this number can be modified by your opponent's modifier for their shields, so they can make it much harder to hit them depending on what their shields are. And after 1 round of combat, each player can retreat, starting with the attacking player, or you can fight to the death. It's up to you. You can also attack a planet and take over a planet, or you can try to culturally take over a planet, which will require you rolling a die and adding your ascendancy, and then you have to roll a number higher than basically the different nodes that are at that planet. As players are flying around, once a planet has 2 space lanes on it, that planet is kind of locked in place. But as time goes by, let's say, for example, I found a planet here, and I found this Cestus 3 planet, and later on I want to do something else, I can basically move this because it's not yet locked in position. Once that second space lane is there, it can be locked in position. There are other things that you can do. You can find phenomenons, which are going to produce research each turn, and if you go there and survive this, the number here, then you can take the research tokens from there, and these are a good way to get things done. And you're going to see the space lanes, and eventually you will have space lane attached to someone else's planet, and then you will have contact with other players, and you'll be able to fight them, but you can also make trade agreements with them, where each player gives the other one a trade card, which is going to give you more production at the end of each round. So players will take their order, they'll do their building phase, they will do all the different commands that they have. They can also launch more projects as one of their actions, where they draw the top 2 cards and pick one to start working on. Sometimes when a project's finished, it gives you a special ability. Like for here, my system's hegemony resistance, that's where someone's taking over by culture, is increased by 1, but this also gives me an extra command, and whenever my ships warp, it gives me +1 to their movement and warp. So you have these that are coming into play, and then at the end of a round, players are going to get resources based on all the different nodes that they control around the board, plus for their trade agreements, and you start another round until someone wins by getting 5 of these ascendancy tokens, or till they control 3 home planets, including their own.
Okay, well, a lot to say here. We'll start with the length. It's not a short game. Okay, you need to go into that knowing it. It says here in the box that it's about an hour per player, and that's when you kind of know what you're doing. Before that, it will take a little bit longer, probably. But I think once you know what you're doing, an hour per player is pretty reasonable.
Maybe. It felt long. I mean, the thing about it was that the turns take so long, and you have to wait for everyone to do their first half of the turn of building and their second half turn of actions, and it takes so long that you're just like, come on, when's the next turn going to happen? And
Right, and because of that, they're coming out with a 4th and 5th player, where you can add those. No way! I mean, I want those factions, the Dominion and the Ferengi, but I don't want 5 players. And to me, maybe I'm just off base, and maybe you can tell me if I'm off base. Doesn't it seem like it's something that would have been easy to fix, where basically we all do the building phase at the same time, essentially?
Exactly.
And then I say, okay, I'm going to use one of my actions to do this. Your turn. You do an action. You do an action. We just go around, and if you're out of actions, then you sit there and wait till everyone else is done.
Exactly.
But that would have made the game flow so much, because everyone does their stuff at one time. There's a huge amount of downtime, and that's in a 3-player game. In a 5-player game, you can go get lunch, watch a movie, go play a quick game of Twilight Imperium, come back, and maybe your turn has come around again.
And if you didn't do all that, you could probably watch the whole series of Next Generation during the downtime.
Yeah, well, okay. So, all right, so it's long and a lot of downtime. What about the components?
Components, I think, are really nice. I think
Top notch.
the components are really nice, and I do like the gameplay. I mean, I like that you're building these little, I guess, I don't know what they're called, but you're building your little space stations, and when you're doing them, your star bases, you've got different things that they produce. So you're building a production tech tree, and it really is a tech tree kind of game.
Well, it's a 4X game. I mean, a 4X game is explore, exterminate, expand, and yes. So those are 3 of the X's. Okay. So there's definitely the exploration. You're going out and finding new stuff.
Yes.
There's definitely expanding, where you're making your tech bigger and you're growing your empire. There's exploit. That's the resource part. That's the other one. And then there's exterminate, and you definitely can fight in this game.
Yes.
But I want to say the components before we jump into gameplay. I really like the ships. I thought they did a good job on those. I like the planets. I like seeing the space lanes all over the place. It looked really cool when it's all laid out. When you see the whole game in full glory, when you come by, it's like, ooh, what is going on here?
Yes.
And the art is pretty good. My only complaint about this was, when you run into different civilizations, you run into like level 1, level 2, level 3 civilizations. I almost wish that those were named. They're just generic civilizations, but I almost wish they had picked like different civilizations, because a lot of the event cards have the Traveler and things like that showed up in Star Trek. Why not call, you're not going to make a playable race out of everything that you run into Star Trek. So that's my only minor complaint. Other than that, top notch, Gale Force 9, good job on that regard.
Yes, I think so too. I think the pieces, the way everything lays out, especially the way the board lays out, I think the way the board lays out is beautiful, beautifully done.
I also like that the different races are very asymmetrical. The Klingons go beat up the other people. The Romulans, you're kind of also beating up people, but more in a tricky way. And then the Federation is all peaceful. Although, I'll say that peacefully annexing, or what was the word they used for
Hegemony.
Hegemony. The different ways, that felt kind of like an attack.
Yeah.
It wasn't really that different from an attack. It was just a different die roll in a way that you do that.
Exactly. I mean, it felt like an attack, but you just use a different combat system essentially. And it's actually better than an attack, it felt.
But there's really a lot of things to like in this game. I love the fleets, building a fleet, moving that around. I like the different technologies that you could then steal technology from somebody else, and now Federation's using Klingon cloaking technology. That'd be an awful one to let the Federation get. And I thought a lot of that was really cool. The actions and everything were well designed. But was there anything you did not like?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I didn't like the most was the slow build-up, and it was a really slow build-up. You have to spend research points to get the cool techs and the cool things, and it takes a long, long, long time in the game before you get those cards out. And when you finally do, then the game flies. And I felt like there was a big build-up to a really short climax, and I don't know how I felt about that. I also felt that what happened on each planet was very random, and it could affect, some person might get his tech right away because that's what it does, or some person might get 3 bonus things, and it was so random on what you would hit every time you went to a planet.
Yeah, okay, that's actually my biggest problem with the game, is the randomness of the going to the different planets. I mean, many games have randomness, but you have like a way to scout and see what's coming ahead. Here you have sometimes nothing happen, yay. Sometimes you meet a civilization, that could be good, could be bad. But sometimes it's just bad thing happen or great thing happen. And if I have 2 great things happen on, let's say, turn 1 and 2, and he has 2 bad things happen on turn 1 and 2, I have a huge step up on him, a huge step. And I wasn't a huge fan of that. I don't mind as much the luck in battles or running into the different dangerous zones. I mean, sometimes that also was not fun to get like your whole fleet decimated. But that I can live with. It was those cards I thought were just a little too wildly swingy.
Yes.
Getting a free tech is a hard thing to pull off. And you get like a good tech at the beginning of the game, you could do well.
Yeah.
As for your slow build-up, I understand that. At least the rules do present opportunities to skip that. And if I'm playing this again, I'm going to use those rules where we start with more resources. We start with maybe... we get like one turn where we all play simultaneously and go out and just explore some planets.
Yeah, see, the one thing that I really do like about it, though, is the theming. I mean, this game, it was very, it puts you in that world. You're kind of doing what the different powers do. And, the Federation does what the Federation does. The Klingon do what they do. And it really felt like you were in the Star Trek world. I mean, the cards all have flavor text on them that fits with the movies and everything, and and the show. And I think that the theming on this is great. Even the way you're exploring, the way you move with warp. You could either warp from system to system, which you can zip across, or you have to move slowly on impulse drive, and those things really put you in that
Yeah, they
feel.
really did an excellent job at, and also growing the system organically.
Yes.
And the planet is here, but it can kind of swing over here. There's some really neat aspects to it, and I was very impressed with all that. What's your final thoughts, though? Because we're all over the place with this one.
Well, let's go back to Star Trek in general, and this game felt like the way Star Trek feels when you watch it on TV. Long, slow, drawn out, and a little boring.
Please, thank you for those who watch at Dice Tower and now have left.
So, unfortunately, because of that, I want to give this an awesomeness rating of 5.
Yeah, okay, where am I on this one? This one's a tough one because there's a lot of things in here I really like, and there's a lot of things in here I really don't like. I love the theming, I love the idea, and I love a lot of the mechanisms of the game. I like the components, I like the way warp and pulse drive works, I like the different factions and how they feel different, and the technology. But those wild swings of luck combined with really bad downtime. I mean, really bad downtime. And those drop it down. So I'm going to say it's a 6, but just barely. And if you played it with 4, it would be a 2. If you play it with 5, I would give this a negative 673. And with 6, I would prefer the world explode. That may actually be going too far. But, but in the box, there's cards that go up to 10. 10 players.
I know. I can't imagine 10 players in this.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine.
I'll watch an episode of the original over that.
Yes.
Oh, now we're all insulting people.
So live
Kidding,
long and
I like
prosper,
Star
everyone.
Trek. Okay. But here's the thing, though. Even though this is not necessarily our cup of tea as much, like I think you could persuade me to play this one again. I do think that there are people out there who are going to love this.
I
All right?
agree.
I'm not saying this is a bad game. I think some of the things could have been changed. I think they could have made it run more smoothly. But I think if you like Star Trek, get this. Okay? If you like long games and don't mind that downtime like I do, get this. If you like those wild events, as long as they're thematic, get this. I really am not trying to say don't get this. I think some people out there are going to love this. And if you like Star Trek at all, really, there's a lot of Star Trek in this box.
Yes, I agree. I mean, like I said, the theming was incredible, and the build-up, the tech tree was good as well. It was just the downtime, the waiting for players' turns, and all this turned it to. That's why I gave it what I gave it.
Well, that is Star Trek Ascendancy.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Hi, I'm Ensign Tom Vassell.
And I'm.
Captain.
We got to start over.